I am back for Getting Buckets, episode 14. I am your guy, Will Brooks. We are going to be touching on a lot of football aspects today, all football based pretty much. But first, I got to make sure I hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure y'all share. Make sure I run these subscriber numbers up, man. Make sure we run these numbers up. But I am excited to get into some football. And the biggest news of the week headed into week one was the Micah Parsons trade. The Dallas Cowboys traded Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers for Kenny Clark and 2 first-round picks. As I talked about in the last episode, if you weren't going to pay him, trade him because you were going to get a haul for him. I believe they undersold themselves. I believe they could have got much more than they got for Micah Parsons. Kenny Clark's a good player. Obviously, 2 first-round picks. I think those picks are going to be later because you traded him to a team that's going to be in the playoffs. Kenny Clark is a good player, but I still believe you could have probably got another pick out of that. Maybe not a first-round pick, but definitely another second or third rounder. You could have gotten that as well. But nonetheless, Micah Parsons is on his way to Green Bay, and I think for Green Bay, that solidifies them as being actual Super Bowl contenders. Prior to the trade, I felt they needed a real heavy hitter at pass rusher, which now they have in Micah Parsons. I like Rashawn Gary, but he wasn't an elite pass rusher. He's very good, and he's going to be very good next to Micah Parsons. But I believe Micah Parsons is that guy. You need a quarterback, and you need a pass rusher. And now they got their pass rusher to go along with who they hope Jordan Love is their quarterback of the future, as they paid him to be. But now Micah Parsons, you don't got to scheme him open. He can get open. Just line them up wherever you want, over the ball, right over the center. D-line, we know what he do at the end over there. You can put a backer, you can put him everywhere. Micah Parsons is legit. He's a 3-time All-Pro in his first 4 years, a 4-time Pro Bowler, never had less than 12 sacks, even that included last year where he missed 3-4 games. Micah Parsons is him. So I believe he really puts the Packers in championship status. As I mentioned, I said I thought they'd be a good team, but not necessarily the Super Bowl. Now I believe they're on a short list with them, the Rams, Eagles, and the Lions. That's probably the short list of, biggest probability of coming out of the NFC. And I believe now you have to put the Packers in that mix. Before, I thought it was just Lions. You had the Lions, the Eagles, and the Rams. That was about the 3 that I'll be like, I'm going to bank my money on one of those 3 coming out the NFC. Now I think you got to put the Packers in that conversation. Obviously, you have the Commanders, some other teams that will have something to say. But I think that's the big 4 to come out. If Jaden Daniels plays how he plays last year, I believe you throw the Commanders in there as well because quarterback play reigns above all else. But for that, as they do got Micah Parsons, I believe that filled that last need or one of the 2 last needs. But I still believe, as I've been saying for 2 years, I haven't had this pod for 2 years, but been saying for 2 years, I believe that the Packers need to go get it a number 1 true receiver. They drafted Matthew Golden, so maybe he's him. But if they need him, whether it's him or Reed or Dobbs or Wicks, whoever it is, they need somebody to emerge as a go-to number 1 weapon. I think that's the problem that the Packers run into and Jordan Love's run into at times. I feel like he has to wait for the open guy because he doesn't really have that guy he can count on. Sometimes you just need a player that can go beat the scheme. I might be double covered. It might be good coverage. Just give me a chance. Just throw the ball and give me a chance. Let me go make that play. And I believe that's what they're hoping Matthew Golden is because they needed a true number 1 and they went and spent a first-round pick on one, which they haven't done in a very long time. So that's what they're banking on. But yes, I do believe this trade puts the Packers in legitimate Super Bowl contention because I believe they're one of the 4 that can come out of the NFC. For the Cowboys, I think I don't believe this helps them win this year. Yes, they need to sharpen their run defense, which I believe Kenny Clark will do. But trading your best player, that's never going to win you a championship, I believe, this same year. Like, you got assets, so now you got to build a little bit more. Maybe you trade something. But as of right now, the current roster just traded Micah Parsons straight up for Kenny Clark. In terms of players, obviously we know the 2 picks, but just players, I'm not sure this helps them win because that defense was not great already. Now you take him away. Who's rushing the passer? I don't believe they have consistent guys that can go rush the passer now. Kenny Clark, he's serviceable, can get you a couple sacks, and he's good against the run. And the secondary, we'll see Trayvon Diggs. We're going to see if he's healthy to start the season. He's been practicing this week, so it seems like he is good to go for the opener against the Eagles on Thursday. Deron Bland, I think Deron Bland is back. They just paid him. They paid him, wouldn't pay Micah. So, but the secondary is very hit or miss. They gamble a lot. You might see a couple pick sixes every now and then, but you also see a lot of times where they're getting beat over the top on deep balls. So we're going to see what happens with that. But yeah, man, but more importantly, I don't understand how you get rid of Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons to me he's one of in terms of you talk about young players, I don't know how many can you name better than him. He's probably the best one in the league, the best young player, 25 or younger. I think he just turned 26, so 26 or younger. Like, you got him, you got Chase, you got Jettas, but like, that's the list. He is it. Like when you go in the draft, you look for generational. He was generational. I believe him. Like I said, him and them two receivers from the Bayou. Those are the three players that are that we've had generational at like young positions. Jaden Daniels could be two. Follows up last year. If he follows up this year, how he did last year. But I don't get like when you go in the draft, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for Micah Parsons. You're looking for Jaden Daniels. You're looking for Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and you get them, and you don't want to pay them. That's tragic to me. Like, what are you going to draft to get these guys for if you're not going to pay them? You don't even get to the second contract, and you waiting and waiting and waiting. As I mentioned last time, you got to stop waiting. They could have signed him after his third year when that going rate was around 29, 30 million, and now he just got 47 million because you waited until the last minute. Granted, a different team gave him 47 million, but that's what was going to cost them upwards of 41 million to get him signed. And if you signed him 2 years ago when that first contract was first eligible to sign that, or when you start your normal conversations, usually after that third year for the very great guys, and they didn't want to pay him. And they could have got him for, like I said, he got 47 million. They probably could have got him for 20 million less on average at APY value, let alone the guarantees, probably 40, $50 million less, if not more. Because the rates in the NFL changed drastically. As I just said, and Myles Garrett or TJ Watt passed Myles Garrett at 41, and then Michael Parsons just jumped to 47 same offseason. So the numbers jump crazy. So waiting, and I think owners got to take that into account. Sign these players early, sign them early, and you can avoid paying the extra tax, because the longer you wait, the bigger the tax is going to be, as the Cowboys found out. But I am glad that they traded him and weren't trying to prove a point, because I believe some teams are stern. They're like, oh, we're not going to trade you. You're just going to have to sit out, hold out, whatever. If they traded him, as I said, I don't believe just having him sit on the bench. It doesn't help either party. If you just have him sit on the bench, you might as well have traded him and got Kenny Clark. So get something for him and the first two picks. And Jerry said he might be looking to trade his picks. So we'll see what happens. But that was the news of the week, that Micah Parsons trade. But now, this is the good part of the show, because it is Tuesday that I'm recording this, and the NFL starts on Thursday. We have opening kickoff on Thursday. So for this episode, I am going to do all my playoff teams, my Super Bowl picks. I'm also going to give you my award winners. Let's first start with the playoffs. I'm going to give my AFC. And this is not in no particular order, but my division winners are going to be the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, and Texans. So those are going to fill up my first 4 seats in the AFC. For the Chiefs, I believe they're going to be coming back looking for vengeance after last year. The last thing that they remember, anybody don't remember, is them getting mollywopped in the Super Bowl by the Philadelphia Eagles. They got mollywopped, absolutely destroyed. And I believe it caused everybody in the Chiefs organization to relook at themselves, because, yeah, as great as they've been, I think it's easy to get complacent when you've been that great. And now you see, they said Patrick Mahomes lost a little bit of weight, looks to be a little bit thinner, a little more athletic. They say Travis Kelce lost 20 pounds, hopefully trying to get back to the Travis Kelce that we know and love from, 2-3 years ago. Before the last 2 years, he'd been slipping a little bit. But before that, Killer Trav was something different. Arguably the greatest tight end in history. He probably is the greatest receiving tight end in history, because nobody's put up the numbers he was putting up. Granted, he is at passing era, but nonetheless, I think the defense is still going to be legit. So I believe they still are going to win, even though and the AFC West is crazy. I do believe that the Broncos and the Chargers will have something to say in that division, but I do think the Chiefs ultimately make the playoffs. I also have, let me just give my wild card as well. I do have the Broncos, Bengals as 5 and 6 in the wild card. And I also have, I'm going to go Chargers or Steelers at 7. They're going to be my last playoff spot. I believe the Steelers could be sneaky good. I believe the Chargers are going to be solid. They're just going to be in the tough division. So I don't know how many of that, but the Steelers are too also in the tough division, because I have the Bengals and the Broncos along with the Chiefs and Ravens. So that's, if one of them would be 3 teams in a division making it. So that's tough. But I do believe there is going to be 3 teams from one of those divisions making it. Either the Chargers from the AFC West, or we're going to have the Steelers from the AFC North. But as we take a look at this list, I said I already went up with the Chiefs. We have the Baltimore Ravens. They're stacked top to bottom. I just think it's a year when nothing is as the conversation is not going to matter about the regular season. Lamar should have been 3-time MVP last year, but Lamar's not going to get that credit. At some point, he just got to go and do it, because they're not going to give him credit. As spectacular as he is, the common fan, the media people, all they care about is rings and championships. At some point, he's got to get it done. You saw the NFL Top 100 just came out, and they voted him the second best player behind Saquon Barkley. I think the players all know Lamar Jackson is special, And there's context in these games. Everybody say, "Oh, Lamar sucks in the playoffs." There's context in some of these games. You want to talk about his first one against the Chargers? Obviously, that was rookie. He wasn't ready. Tennessee, I'll give you that one. He did not play well. Some of these other games, the story is always pinned on Lamar, and I feel like there's a lot of context. We had the Zay Flowers fumble against the Chiefs 2 years ago. We had Mark Andrews fumble and his drop on the 2-point conversion. So there's a lot of context that goes into these games that I don't believe they're giving Lamar Jackson credit. But I believe they're still going to win this division because they're elite on both sides. Still got King Henry in the backfield. Defense is going to be all world. Added Jair Alexander to go along with Marlon Humphrey, Nate Wiggins, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Justin Madubuike. They gonna be all right. So I got them, the Bills. They got the reigning MVP, Josh Allen, and he's Superman, similar to Cam Newton. He's carrying it. He's going to put the team on his back, similar to Lamar Jackson. His first couple years in Baltimore, he was carrying that offense, and that's what Josh Allen's going to do here. They did re-sign James Cook, so he alleviates some of that pressure. But they don't have a Stephon Diggs anymore. It's more of it's a collective group. They're hoping Keon Coleman emerges into being a top receiver, which they drafted him to be last year. So going into year 2, they hope he takes a good jump and becomes more of a go-to heavy hitter. They also signed who they signed today? They signed Gabe Davis today. They got Gabe Davis today, added more to that receiving core. So they still got Gabe Davis, got Coleman, I got Shakir, I got Dalton Kincaid. So they got some weapons. I just believe it's obviously it's going to be more like last year, where you see a lot more Josh Allen running, I think, and making plays, because I believe they're going to beat a lot of, especially the good teams. We have good corners. I don't believe the receivers are going to consistently win one-on-one. So I think it's going to be a lot more of Josh Allen extended plays as he did last year and getting them going. But that defense is still going to be good. And when it gets cold, it's hard to win in Buffalo. That's what they have. Great home field advantage because it's hard to win in Buffalo. The Texans, I think the Texans will be good. I think the defense is going to be top 2 or 3 in the NFL. They got great corners over there. Lassiter. They got Derek Stingley. They got the pass rushers, Will Anderson. They got Daniil Hunter. So I believe the defense is going to be fine. CJ, I believe CJ is going to have a bounce back year. This is another thing where I talk about context. To say CJ had a down year, Nico was hurt. Nico was out 4 or 5 games. Tank Dell missed a large part of the season. Stephon Diggs got hurt, week 6, week 7, was out the rest of the season. O-line couldn't protect anything. So, there's a lot of context that goes into this. So I believe CJ Stroud is just fine. Hopefully, if Nico stays healthy, they got Christian Kirk. There still won't be any Tank Dell. He's recovering. He won't play football this year. Joe Mixon, we'll see what happens. They're already dealing with injuries with a guy like Joe Mixon, but they did sign Nick Chubb, hoping that he can have some juice left. Another year removed from that nasty knee injury he had. But I think for them, what's going to play to their advantage is their division is not the greatest. They play in a division with the Tennessee Titans, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Indianapolis Colts. That's Daniel Jones. That's Trevor Lawrence. We'll see what he does this year. So I believe their division is going to allow, and then they have Cam Ward, the rookie. We'll see how well he does. But I think their division is going to allow them to win pretty easily. I don't think many people have anybody but the Texans winning that division. Some people might have the Jaguars maybe, but I got the Texans. And as I mentioned, I do got the Broncos in the wild card, one of these wild card spots. I believe they're just going to improve on what they did last year. They were 10-7 last year. Cortland Sutton back. Bo Nix another year in the same system. Re-up. They drafted R.J. Harvey. They signed J.K. Dobbins, hoping for a more potent run game than they had last year. O-line is one of the best in football. The defense, probably the best defense in football, with the most lockdown corner that we've had in the NFL since Darrelle Revis, because he's following and he's locking guys down. Sherm was great too, but Sherm wasn't following, which he wasn't asked to do, so that's not a knock on him. But Pat Surtain is following whoever it is, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, he's following them all over the field. So because I believe they have the number 1 defense, and I believe that offense should keep getting better, they're hoping Marvin Mims, wide receiver 2. They signed Evan Ingram, who I believe was a very sneaky pickup and a pickup that wasn't talked about much this offseason. But I think he's going to do great numbers because he's going to be forgotten. And more additions, they signed Talanoa Ufanga from the 49ers. They signed Drain Greenlaw to put him at linebacker. So that defense that was number 1 last year just got even better. So I believe they're easily still going to be number 1. At worst, they're going to be top 3 at worst. So it's all on Bo Nix just improvement, which I believe he's going to improve with continuity. Same guys coming back, same offense. So that's big. Him not having new OCs, which a lot of young guys end up having. They have new OCs, new head coaches, like a Justin Fields. So many head coaches, so many OCs during his tenure, like in Chicago. Then he goes to Pittsburgh. Now he's with the Jets. So many different offenses he's learning. Bo Nix won't have to worry about that. So I like their chances. The Bengals, it's all on Joe Burrow. We're going to see, hopefully the defense just improves just a little bit because they only need them to be average. They don't need them to be good. They don't need them to be great. They just need them to not be 32nd. As long as they're not the worst, they just need to improve a little bit. And they use a lot of draft capital to improve that team. On that side of the ball, the defense, that is, they re-signed Jamar Chase. They re-signed T. Higgins, so they got their guys locked up. So it's going to come down to this offense, which, as you're going to see later, is going to come down to Joe Burrow. And I have pretty big expectations for Joe Burrow. That's coming later in the show, though. But I do believe Joe Burrow is going to carry these boys into the playoffs and that offense into the playoffs because their offense is obviously still going to have to put up high 20s to 30 points per game because even if the defense they get to average or slightly below average, that's still giving up 20 to 25 points per game. So they're gonna have to still put up these points, but they got the firepower to do it with Chase Brown, with them two big monsters at receiver, with Joey B, one of the big four quarterbacks. So they got to protect him. Let me not bypass that. They got to protect him. He's been hit way too much since he's got drafted in 2020. He cannot continue to be hit like that. That's not good for any quarterback. But one that has had the injury history that he's had with the wrist, with the ACL, this can't happen. He got to be healthy. Protect him. And as I mentioned, Chargers, Steelers, we already went over that. But I have one of them being one of my last wildcard teams. For the NFC, my division winners, I got the Eagles, Lions, Rams, and Falcons. So those are going to be, oh, I'm sorry. I have not the Falcons. I have the Bucks. I have the Buccaneers. Buccaneers are going to be my AFC South winners again. Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. I believe the Eagle, and then let me go to wild card. And then for the wild card, I do have the Packers, Commanders, 49ers. The Bucks are in here. I don't believe the Bucks are necessarily going to be better than the Packers or the Commanders, but they're in it. But I don't believe the Packers or Commanders will win their division. And because of that, that puts them in wild card games. But as I mentioned, as I mentioned at the top of the show with the Packers, I believe there's a big four now. There is the Eagles, the Lions, the Rams, and the Packers, and then Jada Daniels plays year 2, how he played year 1. I'm adding 5. There's 5 teams that's coming out of the NFC. So we'll see. But the Eagles, I believe the Eagles, the defense is still going to be right. They're going to be elite. They are worried about Adoree Jackson being that other starting corner. We'll see how that plays out. But they still have the monsters up front on the D-line. They have the All-Pro Zach Bond coming back again. They're gonna have Cooper DeJean. They're gonna have their guys. So they just gotta lock in. They're gonna be, like I said, they have Adoree Jackson. That's gonna be their. If there's one thing to nitpick for that team, it's Adoree Jackson at that corner 2 spot. Nonetheless, I do believe that they'll be just fine. Saquon's still there. AJ Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, Goddard, O-line, elite. They'll be just fine. The only thing that's going to slow them down is injuries. Detroit Lions. I do have the Detroit Lions winning their division. Same thing. I believe their roster is good enough. But they have a slightly more of a question mark because they no longer have their creative play caller, Ben Johnson, who's now in that same division, but now the head coach of the Chicago Bears. They got to figure that piece out. We're going to see. We're going to know 2-3 weeks in the season. After the first 2-3 weeks, we'll know how that offense is going to be. They could pick up right where they left off because that offense is explosive and they could put up points with that run game of Gibbs, Montgomery, and then they play action off of it and got guys like Laporta, Jameson Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown just running buck wild. So we're going to see. We're going to know very, very shortly, 2-3 games in the season, how good, because if that offense is good, and I think their defense could be somewhere in the top 10. As long as they stay healthy. Remember, they were decimated last year. All them injuries, they weren't healthy last year. But if that offense can't be high octane like it was last year, and they have growing pains with this new OC, that might slip out because they're in a tough division. They got the Packers who could easily overtake them, and they got the Vikings as well, who could be a sneaky team. We'll see what JJ McCarthy could do. I don't have them making the playoffs. I have them just outside the playoffs, but they couldn't. That's another team that can easily sneak in because that defense is good and they got the firepower offensively. It's just, can JJ McCarthy put it together year 1 or technically year 2? But his first year starting, can he put it together and be ready to play meaningful games and win meaningful games to get them into the playoffs? Because he's going to have to go beat the Lions and he's going to have to go beat the Packers ultimately to get into the playoffs. So he's got to beat those guys. So he's got to beat the big guns. The Rams. I think the Rams are going to be good. They went and filled up that middle a little bit with Puna Ford on defense, which is what I believe they were lacking, that run defense. They could rush the passer, but they didn't have the run stoppers. And I believe that was a need they kind of wanted to fix, and they kind of went out there and fixed. We'll see how the secondary is still young. They're going to have to make a jump. The secondary, we'll see. That's going to be a work in progress, I do believe. But offensively, I think they should be fine. They got to protect Matthew Stafford, though, because he's getting older. He can't move like he once did. He's already hurt Matthew Stafford's already hurt, had the back injury, so he's got to be healthy. But I believe if he's healthy, they're going to be a scary team. I had them like 13-4. I think they're going to be very good. They got Devontae Smith. They got Devontae Adams, along with Puka Nacua, along with Kyron Williams. They just got to protect Matthew Stafford and get a lead. Because they get a lead, that plays into their defense hands. Because that means Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, and the rest of them boys, Byron Young, get to go hunt. And you allow them to hunt without having to necessarily worry about the run game, which they're kind of weak in. You got something to play with. You got something really nice to play with. I like the Rams. And then I have the Bucks. Again, it's another one of those weaker divisions. I do think the Falcons can compete. I think that one, I had the Falcons somewhere around 10 wins. I have the Bucks probably around 11, maybe 12. So I believe that one's going to be close. It can go either way. I'm going to take the Bucks though. Just with Baker having a second year, same offense, and already having chemistry with those guys. And it's still a little bit of a question mark what Michael Penix is going to look like. He played last year, got to play those last, 7-8 games or something like that. But now he's his first year starting, full camp under him as the starter. We'll see what he's made of. He got the weapons. He got Bijan, great O-line. He got Drake London. He got Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. They said he could be a walking sleeper this year for fantasy purposes. So we'll see. The defense, wait and see how the defense is. They had a solid defense last year. They got Jesse Bates back there. They got AJ Terrell. So we'll see what's going to happen. But I do have the Bucks nonetheless. I just think Baker Mayfield with the chemistry, with his offensive weapons, with his O-line, and another good, they should be a top half of the league defense as well. The Bucks, I'm rolling with them. And then I mentioned we already talked about the Packers. I got them as a wild card team. I got the Commanders. Talked about them a little bit. It's really just about Jaden Daniels. I think they improved the defense a little bit. They added Debo to be a wide receiver too next to Terry McLaurin. They signed Terry McLaurin after having a holdout, which we also talked about in that last episode. I think it's just going to come down to Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels is the same guy that was playing last year, but improved, they're going to be just fine. They're going to be one of those 5 teams that come out the NFC. Lastly, I do have the 49ers making the playoffs. I simply have the 49ers making the playoffs because their schedule, because they lost a lot of guys, but I believe they still have enough remaining talent to compete and win the division, but make a playoff spot because their schedule is on the weaker side. When you have the experience of a guy like Sean McVay, battle-tested guys like Christian McCaffrey, they're hoping comes back around week 6, week 7. You still have Kittle. You still have big Trent Williams. You still have Nick Bosa. So they still have Fred Warner. They don't have Greenlaw no more. They don't have Javarius Ward no more. They don't have Talanoa Hufanga no more. They don't have Debo no more. So yes, they did lose some guys, and I would have them lower on this list if their schedule wasn't so easy. But if you guys go take a look at that schedule, it's going to be hard pressed to tell me that you can't see the Niners possibly winning 11, maybe 12 games with that schedule that they have. And I believe that if they do that, 11, 12 wins, that gets them into a wild card spot. Maybe even a first seed, depending on what the Rams do, because I had the Rams at like 13 games, but the Niners can definitely get to double-digit wins, so 10, 11, around there. I think they can definitely do it. So those are my AFC playoff team. Those are my NFC playoff teams. We gave you the AFC playoff teams, and now we got a Super Bowl. My Super Bowl pick, I'm going with, already talked about, should have been the 3-time MVP last year, the one and only Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. We got Lamar Jackson. And I got them going against, I want to go with the Eagles. It's just tough to have these guys back in the Super Bowl again. It happens. You usually got to have one of them quarterbacks for it. And as good as Jalen Hurts is, I don't know if he's Mahomes to do it. So on here, I actually have written down Eagles or Rams. But I think for my final pick, if everyone is healthy on both of these teams, I would go with the Eagles because I believe they're more complete on both sides of the ball. But that's not to say the Rams can't. The Rams can easily compete. I think it's going to be one of them two coming out of that NFC, ultimately, the Eagles or the Rams. But I'm going to go with the Eagles right now. They have less question marks heading into the season. The Rams already have question marks heading into the season, particularly the health of Matthew Stafford. He's hurt going into the season with a back injury. You would only assume it's going to get worse as it starts taking hits and falling on that back and not only falling on that back, but falling on him when there's 300-pounders tackling him. So because of that, I'm going to roll with the Eagles just because they're complete on both sides of the ball. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes, to manage a season, to get to the playoffs, what it does to win in the playoffs. They know all these things. It won't shock them. So my Super Bowl pick is the Baltimore Ravens. I do have Lamar Jackson going against Jalen Hurts in the Super Bowl. And ultimately, I got Lamar Jackson winning his first ring and knocking off all the naysayers and allowing himself to, I'm sure he doesn't care about it anyway, but he goes out there and wins and proves that that he can win a championship and be a Super Bowl champion. And there's nothing nobody else to say about it. To me, whether he wins or not, he is still, to me, I think Mahomes, you got to put Mahomes at 1 with all due respect. But after that, there's nobody more accomplished in this league than Lamar Jackson. There's nobody in this league that does what Lamar Jackson does. And I think his number 2 ranking in the NFL top 100 tells you that. And when you listen to all the players talk about Lamar Jackson, they know he the truth. So to me, whether he wins or not, Lamar Jackson is special. But I do believe if he wins this year, he finally allows, or not even allows, but he stops all that talk about that all these bums keep talking about Lamar Jackson this, Lamar Jackson that. Yeah. Winning is it ultimately in football, in any sport, but definitely football when you don't get to play both sides. It's a team thing. And like I said, there's context that goes into a lot of this. And just even last year, you don't even hear about the Mark Andrews fumble. You don't even hear about the Mark Andrews catch. Like, somebody might just throw that in there, but they still go, Lamar turned the ball over twice. Yeah, and there's been plenty of quarterbacks that turned the ball over and still won games. And Lamar had them in position to take the lead when Mark Andrews fumbled. He had them in position to tie when, not in position, but he had the tie when Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion. I don't know what else you want him to do. So yeah, you could say that the 2 turnovers, but even with the 2 turnovers, you don't talk about the 2 turnovers that they win that game, which they easily could have if Mark Andrews doesn't have those 2 mistakes. That's not without blame. Obviously, like, you want Lamar to be smarter with the ball and not have those 2 turnovers, but to not use context and just say, oh, look, Lamar Jackson had 2 turnovers again. He's the reason they lost. You just sound like you just hating because you're trying to prove and you're trying to run with a narrative that don't even really make sense. As I mentioned, the first one, you want to take that one? Sure. Tennessee, you want to take that one. But some of these other playoff losses that everybody wants to put on Lamar, there's context. Zay Flowers fumble, as I mentioned, the Mark Andrews plays, as I mentioned. So I don't like this. Just add context. It's a team sport. So if you want to say Lamar had his part in it, sure. But if you want to say Lamar lost the game and Lamar was the only reason they lost, that is crazy. So I do have Lamar Jackson winning. I have him winning the Super Bowl MVP and being a first-time champion. However, I do not have Lamar Jackson being the 3-time MVP this year. I have at my MVP, as I mentioned earlier, Joe Burrow. And I simply have him at MVP because I believe he's going to have an MVP year for them to get into the playoffs and make the goals of winning a championship as they wish and are hoping to have. He is another guy that had an MVP quality season last year, but the win total and then ultimately not making the playoffs, you couldn't win MVP not making the playoffs. But his numbers last year were fantastic, and I believe his numbers are going to have to be somewhere similar for them to win championships, or not even win championships, but make the playoffs and compete for a championship. He's going to have to be extraordinary once again. And I think all he has to do to win this MVP is in September, rather than starting 0-2, start earlier, start better, start 2-1, start 3-1, start 4-0. If he does that, because he always picks it up. He's hot. He's usually picks up steam and he's hot heading into the playoffs. Right around the end of the season, he's in perfect Joe Burrow. He's in Joe Shiesty form. He's exactly where everybody would need him to be if you're a Cincinnati fan. So he just needs to start off the season, and they all played in preseason. I think they know that early season is important, because think about it. If they don't lose to the New England Patriots week 1, they make the playoffs. They don't have to worry about somebody losing for them to get in. They're in the playoffs. So for me, I do have Joe Burrow winning the MVP award. The next award, Offensive Player of the Year. There's a lot of good guys that can win Offensive Player of the Year. Jamar Chase won it last year with his Triple Crown. You got guys like Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors. You got Brian Thomas. There's a lot of guys that can win these Offensive Player of the Years. But I got a guy who I believe, and I mentioned earlier, they're a team that could have question marks because of their new offensive coordinator. But I believe there's a guy that can make that new OC's life very simple. And his name is Jahmyr Gibbs. Give that boy the ball and get the hell out the way. That's all you got to do. Pitch it to him, hand it to him, throw it to him, let him throw it. Just give the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs and let him get loose. At the running back position, I'm not sure there's anybody faster in the NFL. He might be the fastest player. Tyreek Hill, I believe, is still the fastest player. When you talk about the 5 fastest players in there, Jahmyr Gibbs' name is somewhere in that top 5. And they have another one on that offense, and Jamison Williams is also probably in that top 5. But they got speed. There ain't no doubt about it. And Jahmyr Gibbs, he had 20 touchdowns last year. And it seems like they're planning to cut David Montgomery just a little bit, rather than it being such a 50-50 split as it kind of has been. It seems like they probably might go more 60-40, which is going to give more touches to Jahmyr Gibbs. And if they do that, look out. OPOY from Jahmyr Gibbs, and he can make that life for the Detroit Lions even much more simple. Just hand him the ball, pitch it to him, throw it to him, let him do work. Because what you don't want is to be in games where you're worried about Jared Goff trying to throw you the wins. This is what we've learned about Jared Goff, is he's good when he doesn't have to be Superman all the time. It's what we've noticed in there's game when it has to be shootouts, typically in a shootout where he doesn't have a run game and he can't play action, it doesn't work out. If he can play action and he has some help from that run game, he can do wonders. And that's not a knock on Jared Goff. It's just some guys are not like elevators. Some guys are not the guys you can't, like, some guys can't overtake. And that's what makes sports so great, is when you have the guys that are the elevators, the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes, the Joe Burrows, the guys that can elevate, the Josh Allens, those guys that can elevate when everything is not going wrong or everything is going wrong and we still have to put up 30 points. Can I just go get it myself? There's very few guys that can do it. You know, Brady could go do it, put together monotonous drives and just put it together and do it. Peyton Manning, uplift and just go make plays. They couldn't do it as much with their legs as some of these these new guys now, but they always seem to find a way. They could throw the ball 50 times if the run game wasn't working. They could throw the ball 50 times and just pick apart the defense and go get you 35 and go get you 40. Drew Brees is another one. Aaron Rodgers, those guys. So that, again, I like to speak positivity. I believe a lot of the media is like a lot of negatives. Not trying to put anything on Jared Goff, but I do believe Jahmyr Gibbs enables Jared Goff to be the best version of Jared Goff. And that's not a problem. That's why you have a team. Make my life easier. And Jahmyr Gibbs can do that. So I believe Jahmyr Gibbs will have a crazy year this year, simply because I believe them trying to figure out that offensive creativity is going to slightly hinder the pass game. So I don't believe the connection between Jared Goff and the entire offense and the OC is going to be as good as it was with Ben Johnson, who had been there, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. I think he's been there since Dan Campbell's been there. So they've had a long time developing that. So see how that goes. But I have Jahmyr Gibbs having a big year. My defensive player of the year, Micah Parsons. I believe the Cowboys have pissed Micah Parsons off. I believe it. I believe many fans believe. I believe many media people believe. I believe many players believe that there are certain guys that are no-brainers. I heard Ocho Cinco talking about this on Nightcap. There are certain guys that are no-brainers, as Ocho called them, and no-brainers in terms of getting paid. Micah Parsons was one of them. As I mentioned, 3-time All-Pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, never had less than 12 sacks. He's only missed 5 games in his 4-year career. I'm sure 1 or 2 of those was him just sitting out because they probably locked up a position. And then he missed 3 or 4 games last year. So he hasn't missed a lot of games, and he goes out there and you could play him over the ball. He can rush from over the ball. He can rush from the DN spot. He can play linebacker. And I believe they pissed him off, and he's going to be on a mission to raise hell down there in the Green Bay. He's going to be on a mission, I believe. And because of that, I believe that's the ignition he needed. He's been close a couple times to being Defensive Player of the Year. And I think now he's going to be on a mission to prove y'all don't want to pay me, but y'all don't want to pay me, but y'all going to pay a guy like Deron Bland over me. And Deron Bland's a good player, but he ain't Micah Parsons, as I mentioned. And so I believe because he going to have that chip on his shoulder, he going to go all, he going to balls out. I'm saying he's going to have no less than 15 sacks. No less. And I believe, and add a couple forced fumbles in that mix as well. Micah Parsons for Defensive Player of the Year. My Offensive Rookie of the Year, I believe, is going to be Cameron Ward. Cam Ward, I believe there's not a lot of rookies that could really challenge him this year. You have Ted McMillan, you have Ashton Jeanty, but I believe it's hard to beat out a quarterback. If a quarterback is good, or even good for just a rookie year, it's gonna go to the quarterback because they're gonna have 3,000 plus yards and probably 20 plus touchdowns. It's just gonna be hard for them to beat that unless Ted McMillan goes out there and goes for 1,500 his rookie year and 8 tuds, or if Ashton Jeanty goes out there and runs for 1,500 and 10 tuds. I think that's the only thing that's going to be able to challenge him. Is one of them rookies having a historically great rookie season, and I don't see any of these rookies having historically great seasons. Cam Ward is going to get to play every game. He's going to build stats. So as long as he doesn't look like a rookie year bust, I believe it's going to be hard for anybody to surpass him as rookie of the year. Again, there's no other quarterbacks really challenging him. So you would have thought Shador would be in this race, but Shador, we know what happened with Shador. We're not to speak on that. Jackson Dart is the backup, so we don't see much happening there. Defensive Rookie of the Year. Granted, I didn't like much of what I saw in the preseason from this guy, but I think it's going to be Abdul Carter, simply because I believe there's a lot of good corners and probably safeties coming out. A guy like Jedi Barron, drafted by the Denver Broncos, another DB safety / corner kind of guy, helped that number 1 ranked defense from last year, and they got even better on defense. but I just don't know if those guys are going to put up enough stats. I believe he's going to be able to have the chance to put up more stats, especially playing with Dexter Lawrence and playing with Kayvon Thibodeau. Those guys will probably take some of that heated pressure off to where he gets to handle a lot of one-on-ones. And because of that, he should be able to eat if he is what we think he's going to be as the number 3 pick of the draft. And we believe he's the next great outside pass rusher, outside linebacker-ish player, the next Micah Parsons. They both played at Penn State. They both wore number 11, Abdul Carter and Micah Parsons. So we'll see. But I think he's going to be the defensive player of the year. And then my coach of the year is going to be Sean Payton for the Denver Broncos. I believe the Denver Broncos are going to be very good this year. I didn't pick the Chiefs to win the division, but I believe I had the Chiefs 13-4. I had the Broncos 12-5. So as I do have the Chiefs winning the division, I don't believe the Broncos are going to be far back. I believe the Broncos are right there and they can easily be number 1 in this division. This division that the Chiefs have won, I think 10 years in a row, something like that. It's close, and like 9, might be 9. Whatever the number is, it's around 10, and they've won that division that many years in a row. But I think if they win it this year, this is going to be the hardest year that they've had to compete for that division since Patrick Mahomes has been the starting quarterback for them since 2018. So I believe this is going to be the hardest year, and I believe Sean Payton is going to lead the Denver Broncos. I've mentioned that defense is going to be spectacular. They were spectacular last year, and they just added to it. And the offense was good last year, and I believe they added to it with guys like Evan Ingram, R.J. Harvey, J.K. Dobbins, Hope Marvin. They said he tweaked his groin, should be ready for week 1, but the Hope Marvin Mims becomes a good wide receiver too. And yeah, so I think they're going to be very good. And I think because of that, you're going to see Sean Payton with a very good resume to possibly be coach of the year in 2025. All right. Those are my postseason picks. Those are my playoff picks, my Super Bowl picks, my award picks, my take on Micah Parsons. And then for the last part, I am going to give my week 1 picks heading into week 1 to kick it off. Opening night, we have the Eagles at the Cowboys. I'm going Eagles. I didn't put a score for any of these games, but I do think the Eagles are going to mollywop the Dallas Cowboys. With no Micah Parsons, I believe Saquon Barkley has a field day. I believe that O-line is going to push around the Dallas Cowboy D-line. I believe the Eagles D-line is going to push around that Cowboys O-line. And I believe it's just going to be a massacre. It's going to be a massacre for the Dallas Cowboys at the hands of the Philadelphia Eagles come opening night, which is only 2 days away from when I'm recording this, but I have the Eagles by a lot. Friday, we got Chiefs and Chargers. I got the Chiefs in Brazil. I got the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs, like I said, I think they got a poor taste in their mouth, and they've been ready since the Super Bowl. That was in February, kickoffs in September. They've had 7 months, and I think they're ready. They've had 7 months off, and all they've been thinking about is getting revenge on whoever going to be week 1 on that schedule, and it's just so happened it's the Chargers in Brazil. And I think they come into mollywop them boys. I believe both the opening night Thursday and the Friday Brazil game. I think both games are blowouts by the teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. The Eagles and the Chiefs blow out their opponents Thursday and Friday. Then for the Sunday games, Titans at Broncos. I got Broncos. I believe that's going to be a tough game. I believe that is probably the worst defense to play if you're Cam Ward going into week 1. The best defense from last year that only added to the defense that got better this year. I think that I'm pretty sure that the Denver Broncos led in sacks last year. I've mentioned the secondary with Pat Surtain, Jedi Barron, Talanoa Hufanga. I believe that's a very poor for a rookie. I think that's, like I said, I just think they're going to throw things at him that he's never seen before, and it's going to get to him, and that's okay. He's a rookie. He'll learn from it. But I just think in a week 1 start, that's a tough, and you got to go to play at Mile High in that altitude. That's only going to make it even worse. So I got the Denver Broncos over the Titans convincingly as well. Because I think, again, I don't know how many points Cam Ward's going to be able to put up. I would love to see him. I'd love for it to be a shootout. And Cam Ward impressed in that game. And we also know typically early in the season, defenses are ahead of the offenses. And this is a defense, as I keep mentioning, number 1 in the league versus an offense led by a rookie quarterback. Offenses with great quarterbacks are usually slower at the beginning of the season, let alone rookie quarterbacks. So we'll see how that goes. But I do got the Denver Broncos beating the Tennessee Titans. Next game, I got the Cardinals at Saints. I got the Cardinals. The Saints simply don't have a quarterback. They're going with Desmond Ridder again. They just don't have a quarterback, bro. So for me, I don't know if I can pick the Saints in any game this year because they just don't have a quarterback. The defense is not as good as they used to be. They still have Cam Jordan, but he's getting a little older. I just believe it's going to be. I believe it's going to be a cakewalk for Kenneth, for Kyler Murray, and the rest of the Cardinals. Man, I think it's just going to be a very easy game for them. The Saints are going to have, granted, it's in the dome, so maybe some crowd noise can help them. But I just believe when you don't have a quarterback, it's going to be tough. So we'll see how that goes, but they ain't got a quarterback. Then we have the Dolphins at Colts. Again, the Colts, they got a quarterback. They got Daniel Jones. It seems like a lot of these games. And then the Dolphins got offensive firepower. They added Micah Fitzpatrick. Granted, they no longer have Jalen Ramsey, but I believe that offense should be able to put up, even if we say they start slow, they should be able to put up 20 points. I'm not sure Daniel Jones can get the Colts to 20 points unless Jonathan Taylor would have to have a special day and a run for a $150, 200-yard, a couple touchdowns probably for them to win that game, I believe. So if he does that, he keeps them in it because, that's going to be their chance, keeping the ball away from the Dolphins and the Colts and Jonathan Taylor being able to run the piss out the ball. I think that's going to be their key to try to win this game. That's going to be their key. But I am still picking the Dolphins. I just believe too much firepower. There's Patriots, Raiders at Patriots. I got the Patriots. I believe the Patriots are going to be another sleeper team. Not a sleeper team in terms of I think that they're going to make the playoffs, but I do think they won 3 games last year. I can easily see them winning 7 or 8. So I can easily see them having a 4 or 5 game improvement from last year, which is massive, obviously. And I think this is a good game for them to start their season with Drake May, year 2. They have a new coach, Mike Vrabel, and I love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a fantastic coach. They got a good defense. They added Stephon Diggs. They got weapons. They drafted Travion Henderson. So they got weapons, as I mentioned. The Raiders added Pete Carroll, Geno Smith. Jacoby Myers requested a trade. Is he going to play week 1? I would assume so, but it seems like there's something going on there. Raiders just still got too many weapons outside of Brock Bowers. They added Ashton Jeanty, so we'll see how that goes. Defense is not great, though. So I believe the Patriots, I believe it's going to be easier for the Patriots to put up points than the Raiders. And I also believe the Patriots defense is a lot better at stopping the Raiders off attack than the Raiders will be at stopping a Patriots attack. So I'm going to take the Patriots at home. Steelers Jets. This is going to be a very good game, I believe. You get Aaron Rodgers at Jets, which is obviously not as big as would be him in like Lambeau. But, it goes back to the team he's been at for the last 2 years. Only played 1 year, though, because of the Achilles tear. Justin Fields playing against the Steelers, who I believe the Steelers are going to have enough. They're going to be a team that's going to have a top 5 defense as well with the additions they made. They've added Slay. They've added Jalen Ramsey. They've re-signed TJ Watt. So they got Alex Highsmith. So they got a crew over there. I think Cameron Hayward is ready to play. So I'm going to roll with the Steelers, though. I believe Aaron Rodgers. I believe the Steelers, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be a sleeper team. As long as the only question with them is how good can the O-line protect Aaron Rodgers. If they can give him some time, because I believe the defense is going to keep them in all the games because the defense is going to be elite. But how much can Aaron Rodgers help, or how much can Aaron Rodgers provide to the Steelers? And I think everything he's going to be able to provide is going to come with the help of that O-line, obviously. So we'll see how that O-line goes. And I'm going Steelers over the Jets. I'm going for the next game. Got Giants Commanders. That's Russell Wilson versus Jaden Daniels. I'm going to roll with Jaden Daniels. I believe they've added Deebo Samuel, another weapon next to Terry McLaurin. The running back situation in Washington's a little murky. We'll see how that goes because they let go of Brian Robinson. They traded him to the 49ers. But I believe their defense is solid. Giants do have a very good defense, though. I believe the Giants' defense is solid. I just don't believe I don't believe Russell Wilson will be able to outgun Jaden Daniels week 1. So I'm going to roll with the Commanders. We have Panthers at Jaguars. This was a kind of toss-up game for me. I'm going to go with the Jaguars because they are at home. I think the bigger thing for me, not necessarily if they win this game, I want to see the use of Travis Hunter. How they're going to use Travis Hunter in this game is going to be something I'm looking forward to. They said he's obviously going to be primarily at receiver, obviously playing sometime at cornerback. I want to see what that split looks like. Is it 80-20? Is it close to 100-100? What is it? I think 100-100 would be crazy. I think that is a lot of snaps, but that's what he wants to do. So we're going to see. Then we have the Bengals at the Browns. I'm going Bengals. I don't believe Joe Flacco can outgun Joe Burrow. The Browns defense has lost like Emerson. He's out for the year. I think he tore his Achilles. They do have Myles Garrett. They do have Denzel Ward. So their defense is solid still. At the end of the day, they still got to put up points. You got to put up a certain amount of points. How much can Joe Flacco score? It's going to be the determining factor is going to be that defense. We'll see how that defense is, the Bengals defense that they've used all their draft capital for. We're going to know very shortly. But I am going to go to Bengals because I believe even if it turns into some kind of shootout, I'm taking Joe Burrow over the Browns. So I'm going Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Next game, Buccaneers at Falcons. Division game week 1. I'm rolling with the Buccaneers over the Falcons. I think this game will go either way, though. It is in Atlanta. This game will go either way. This one was a toss-up for me. But I'm gonna roll with what team I think is the better team, and I believe the Buccaneers are a better team. But I believe this is gonna be a close game. It's probably gonna come down to the wire. We're gonna see what Michael Penix is about. He's gonna have a full year now. Had a full offseason, full training camp as a starter, full starter reps, and he got the weapons to do it. So I believe this game is going to be close, but I am going to roll with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Bucky Irving, solid defense, so I'm going to roll with them. 49ers at Seahawks. I believe this is going to be another good game. We're going to see how good if Sam Darnold can duplicate what he did with the Vikings last year. The 49ers are going into Seattle, which is a hard place to play, that 12th man. But I am going to go with the 49ers because of team continuity. They've all kind of been together. They know how they're going to game plan. Brock Purdy's going to be Brock Purdy. They're going to have McCaffrey back. They're going to have George Kittle back. Trent Williams, the rest of the crew is there. We're going to see how the Seahawks do with Sam Darnold. They've replaced DK Metcalf with Cooper Kupp. JSN is still there. So we're going to see, but I'm going to roll with the Niners week 1. This is another close game though, so I wouldn't be surprised it going the other way, especially because the Seahawks are at home. But, going into week 1, I think because the Niners can run, I think the Niners are going to be able to run the ball as well. That'll take that, and running the ball makes their life easier. So if you could run the ball, especially the early weeks of the season, it allows the offense to get into that rhythm. And I believe they'll be able to run it better than the Seahawks can. Although Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, I do like them. I just believe, I think that 49ers D-line is still good enough to stop the run. Rather than the Seahawks, they're a lot easier to run on. Granted, they did get a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence. He's a good run stopper. Leonard Williams, good run stopper. But Kyle Shanahan is very creative, and his run schemes are great. So I'm going with the 49ers, but close game. Lions at Packers. This one is another close game. I'm gonna roll with the Packers week 1. For the simple fact, I'm not sure how this offense of Detroit is gonna react week 1 with their new OC and the Packers. The Packers are gonna have some juice. Micah Parsons' first game, they're in Lambeau, and they all know what to expect. They got Josh Jacobs back. They're running back that whole team. They had a defense that was good last year that just added Micah Parsons. So I'm rolling with the Packers. They know what they're doing. It's a good game plan. Matthew Golden week 1. So I'm rolling with the Packers. I want to see how this Lions offense looks first. Texans at Rams. I'm going with the Rams to win their first game. I believe this is going to be a good game though. I believe this is probably going to be this and the game after this one, I believe is going to be one of these two games are going to be game of the week. I believe this one could be a good shootout kind of game, like 27-30 type ball game that the Rams, I think, ultimately win on their last second drive from Matthew Stafford. But that Texas defense is elite. As we mentioned earlier, I just believe it's going to be when these games are this close, I kind of lean home team. And so because of that, I'm going to pick a Rams because I believe this is going to be a nip and tuck ball game where each team is scoring a little bit. If it comes down to defense, you lean the Houston Texans defense, I believe, but I believe it's going to be more of a scoring game because both of these offenses are creative and got weapons. So I'm going to roll Rams, but I'm going to roll Rams at home. And as I mentioned, this game is also obviously a contender for game of the week. Ravens at Bills, week 1. I'm rolling with the Baltimore Ravens. They're a team that usually gets off to a good foot to start the season. The Buffalo Bills are usually a team that they're a team that's going to start slower and they kind of pick up stride towards the end, like middle. They start picking up, but you can usually get the Bills early in the season. And this game being in Buffalo, yes, it's in Buffalo, but it's not. It's better to play Buffalo in September. It's better to play the Bills in Buffalo in September than play the Bills in Buffalo in November, December, and January. Late November, December, and January. So I'm gonna roll the Ravens. I believe coming into week 1, it's gonna be should be easier for them, whether it be through the arm of Lamar Jackson, the legs of Lamar Jackson, or the legs of Derrick Henry. They got more of a heavy artillery to beat the Bills defense, and the Bills got to beat the Ravens defense because the Ravens defense is also going to be one of those top 10 units. The Bills defense should be a top 10 unit, but they don't have the names and the guys over there that the Ravens got on offense or defense, besides quarterback, obviously, but we can call that, we can say they cancel out when you got Lamar and Josh Allen. We cancel them out, and you look at the rest of these rosters. I'm going Ravens. I am going to Ravens, and this is the team that they lost to last year, so they're coming. They're trying to put foots in them. They trying to get some comeuppance because they lost last year, and they probably feel that they should have won that game last year if they didn't have so many miscues. Think about it. They had Lamar had 2 turnovers. Mark Andrews had a turnover. Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion, and they still lost the game by 2 points, 3 points. So they definitely feel they should have won that game. And then they close it off on Monday Night Football. We have the Vikings at Bears. This is a very intriguing game. I want to see J.J. McCarthy in his first actual game. You got Caleb Williams first game with the Ben Johnson offense. But I am going to roll the Vikings. I think the defense, I'm going to plug the defense here. I think the defense will do enough. I'm not going to confuse Caleb Williams a little bit. I'm not sure the Bears' run game is as good as like the Lions was last year, both because of the O-line, although the Bears did improve the O-line a little bit, but we got to wait to see how that looks. So we'll see how that goes. But I don't believe that run game will be able to kind of counterbalance that Vikings scheme. And I think they're going to confuse Caleb a little bit. And JJ McCarthy can do just enough to get that W. When you got a guy like JJ, it makes it easy. So I am going to roll Vikings, but that one's also going to be a close game. It can go either way, but I am going to roll Vikings on the road to close out week 1 of our football season. All right. And now that's been real. We are now done with episode 14, man. Make sure I hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back with more episodes throughout the week. Might even have an episode after the Thursday game, or maybe after the Thursday and Friday game. We're going to hit some college football probably a little bit too next week. I was going to hit some this week, but it's kind of been a little bit of a long solo episode. So I hit this week, but nonetheless, football season is here, man. So I got any topics y'all want me to hit, make sure y'all comment them on the video, man, and I'll make sure I hit them next week. If y'all got any ideas for the season, whether it's segments about the NFL, when the NBA starts about the NBA, man, just make sure y'all comment, man. Whatever y'all thoughts are, I'll make sure to react to them. That gives me more content to talk about. Comment y'all thoughts and opinions, man, and I'll react to them. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, I'll be sure to react to it. You dig what I'm saying? But make sure I hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Again, this has been Getting Buckets, episode 14 with your guy, Will Brooks Jr., man. I'll see y'all for episode 15.